Just the 2 trades, 1 blockbuster, and a nice Cubs series win in KC. What should we talk about?
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Alongside Sam Olber, I'm Matt Cozy. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into a discussion with you on all things Cubs. Thank you for being part of the show and making us your first listen today. And the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day, like the video, and comment anything below. Today's episode is presented by Supply House. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to get parts fast. Shop for your next plumbing, HVAC, or electrical job and get fast shipping from coast to coast at SupplyHouse.com. Last week, Cubs president of baseball operations, Jed Hoyer, signaled the Cubs were looking beyond this season at the trade deadline, which is 5 p.m. Central Tuesday. Quote, "If moves help us for 2025 and beyond, I think we're exceptionally well positioned," close quote. Well, Hoyer made that clear this weekend, making 2 trades as of our recording time here on a Sunday night, including shocking the entire sport by acquiring Isaac Paredes from the Rays for Christopher Morel and 2 prospects. Sam already so eloquently put out a first reaction episode. Now we're going to break down the trade and then some. Cubs also made a trade earlier in the weekend for a relief pitcher. We'll go over what's in store for them the next couple of days, and then recap Cubs Royals and preview Cubs Reds. Sam, it is pretty surprising this weekend. I know I've been abuzz ever since you called me while I was at Whole Foods on a Sunday afternoon. And Jed's making moves.
Shocked. Shock's the word I'd use. I did not see this coming. I did not see the Cubs trading Christopher Morel at this point with his value, but I also didn't see him being the centerpiece in a trade that got them back a player like Isaac Paredes. Let's start out with acknowledging the fact that in any facet of life, there is risk involved when you do something like this. My wisdom teeth have been killing me all weekend. I'll have to get those removed soon. That's a risk. I have to get put to sleep. There's a lot of risks that happen. Yes, Christopher Morel might become a Kyle Schwarber in Tampa Bay. Isaac Paredes' game may not transition to Wrigley Field the way you want it to. He's batting 127 in July. Hopefully that stops. Yes. But after having a lot of time today between my instant reaction show and now this program, walked around the apartment complex, went to the pool, it was closed for some reason. It's still July. I reflected and thought to myself, I'm happy with this trade. And the reason why is this. I've complained day in and day out on this program about the Cubs' lack of variety in their offense. These all-or-nothing guys that get hot at the same time, get cold at the same time. They have no approach at the plate, no RBI sense. So we got rid of a guy that has great underlying stats and that has great upside with his tools. And we acquired a guy that's the same age, by the way, that has already proven he could drive in 100 runs in the major leagues. He had 31 home runs and 98 RBIs in 2023, finished 18th in the MVP voting. This year, he made the All-Star team. He's a proven run producer, hitting a solid average with runners in scoring position. He's used to being in the middle of the order, and he could play third base. This is a move and has 3 years of control. This is a move that helps the Cubs. Forget about 24 for a second. In the offseason and beyond, because what it does is it gives you stability at an important position at third base. It makes you now have more flexibility. Okay, well, if we trade Nico Horner now, we can move Michael Busch to second. We don't have to force Matt Shaw to play third base if he's more comfortable at second base when he's ready to come up. Seiya Suzuki, who can't judge a fly ball to save his life in right field. Now he could comfortably DH if you're serious about winning. This opens up a ton of possibilities, and it is the type of hitter that I think we've been looking for. Look, if you look at the Baseball Savant pages, you're going to be disappointed. But we've talked about it. I'm looking for production, on-field production. And I think Isaac Paredes gives you that. And is he the star that we're looking for? No, probably not. But we went into this season, and it was a Christopher Morel experiment on both sides of the ball, third base and offense. Both of those have been a fail. Now, that question for 2025 on paper has been answered. You have a pretty above average defensive third baseman that is 25 years old and has proven that he could be an all-star offensively. And oh, by the way, who's to say he doesn't have just as much upside as Christopher Morel? He had an 840 OPS last year at 24 years old. What if he figures out some things and makes adjustments? He had 31 home runs last season. So this idea, he's a lower ceiling guy. We don't even know that. He's the same age as Christopher Morel, essentially. I like the deal. I give Jed Hoyer a lot of credit because I do think there is some pressure on him to do something to make the offseason a little bit easier. So 2025 is a better start to the season. And I think he did it in an efficient way. I think it was the best way possible. And in order to get something, you got to give something up. And they gave up a guy that a lot of fans liked and who still, I think, has a high ceiling that might figure it out in Tampa. But man, I think that this was the right move, and I think it signals that Jed Hoyer publicly is taking accountability for some mistakes on this team, and he's going to do the best he can to correct them. So next year at this time, we're talking about winning a division championship.
Yeah, this is no doubt a roster shakeup with both offense and defense in mind. I would call Paredes, I would venture to say he's a legit slugger. His 67 home runs since 2022. And not only that, but he's a slugger who doesn't strike out. 60% strikeout rate,
right.
10% walk rate, average to above average defense at third base. Folks, going into Sunday's contest in KC, I've seen things written about Morel had up and down defense. I guess, if you want to be nice, but he was still -5 in defensive runs saved. He graded out as one of a lower third baseman and defensively in the whole sport. The Cubs upgraded at third base exponentially here, and Paredes is already an established player, and it's encouraging when you lay out that he has even room to grow still. And he's going to enter Monday night's game in Cincy, 793 OPS. Morel was 676. Paredes, 247 average. Morel, 199. Home run numbers were about the same, 18 to 16 for Morel and Paredes, respectively. I know there's been some concerns laid out about him being not only pull heavy, but almost pull extreme. And he hits the ball to left field. Okay, I don't jump out of my seat like in fear. I understand Wrigley's 355 down the line, but it's also friendly in the left center gap. I know he's only hitting 127 in July, but perhaps this shakeup and him in new colors,
absolutely,
untaps something for him.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the big one.
Yep.
When there's a human being on second or third base, he's hitting 283 with an on base of 387. And that's where the Cubs this year tanked their season up to this point. And last week, I mentioned this player. Why? Because for these 2024 Cubs, Sam, the difference between 3 and 4 runs is paramount. Mm-hmm. And it's embarrassing for them that was the case, but it's true. After Sunday's win, the Cubs are 42-15 when scoring 4+ runs. Now, if I put all the teams in StatMuse followed by record with 4+ runs, sure, I'm sure a lot of them have good records with 4+ runs. But that is a huge gap. They're almost 30 games over 500 now, whereas when they averaged a half to 1 run less, they went 22-39 from April 27th to July 3rd. This could be the player that gets them into the 4-run neighborhood every single night. And it's a bold move by Jed. I think more moves are coming. It was out of nowhere, but that's kind of what Jed does.
Well, I think the easiest way to prove your point would be if the Cubs made this deal in January, we would not be sellers right now.
I think there's a case to be made about that. Can we prove it? No, but this is along those lines. Yes.
And let me just tell you, Isaac Paredes in his career has also elevated his game with runners in scoring position. He's just a career 234 hitter, but that's really been better lately. But in his career with runners in scoring position, 251, 364 on base. Yeah. So he's always kind of been better in those spots. And you mentioned beautifully, and I neglected to mention, again, just the opposite of Morel. High contact guy, doesn't swing and miss a lot. He has a very unique profile, right? When you think about a guy that pulls the ball,
it's the opposite of the player he was traded for, no?
Right. But just in general, when you think about a guy and you hear, oh, he pulls the ball in the air a lot, you don't think about a guy that also makes a ton of contact.
But
true. He does. So he's unique in that regard. I want to touch on two more things, Matt. Number one, I want to touch on the Morel aspect of this.
Okay.
He needed a change of scenery. It didn't work. And the reason why the Cubs decided to move from him is this. How many times have we said it on the show? The Cubs are trying to develop young players and win now. And coming next year, they're going to be developing PCA, Matt Shaw, maybe Triantos, maybe Owen Casey, maybe Kevin Alcantara, who knows? You can't develop young players and then also have some of your core guys, put that in quotes, also still in the developmental phase and struggling, right? And so what Paredes allows you to do, it's kind of another thing where you go, okay, that spot's locked in. Now we can worry about this. Christopher Morel is still in the developmental stage. And Jed Hoyer and the Cubs, quite frankly, don't have time for that. And so that's why I believe he was moved. And
that's a great point.
You know, he's a nice guy. He had some good moments here. And I talked about it on the show. Flashes get you fired. He shows
that's right. The Justin Fields
comp. Yeah, he shows you great flashes, but those just don't do enough when you're not winning baseball games. So that's that aspect. And I forgot the second thing.
All right, let's go back to this opening up. Possibly Suzuki moving to DH full-time and the Cubs doing something else in right if they want to. Now, Cody Bellinger could just play there full-time if he's still around. I'm having fun with the Juan Soto prospect. I mean, we have so much time for this, but Anthony Santander might be a more realistic target. And who knows what they have planned for Owen Casey and Alexander Canario, if they're even still in the organization. But my point is there are multiple good options there in theory if Suzuki now goes to DH full-time, because his best position, Sam, is DH.
Yep.
It is. And he's proven that now. Hunter Biggie and Ty Johnson, right-handed pitching prospects, were sent with Morel. Biggie did make his debut earlier this month, showed flashes in his 4 appearances, but it was such a small sample size there. John Heyman reported Sunday the Cubs are one of 6 teams in on Blake Snell.
No way.
He could opt out of his deal with the Giants after this year. Folks, if he opts in, it's 30 M's, which, I mean, you soar over the luxury tax.
I thought it was 38 even.
Yeah, I see 30 here.
Yeah, I'm probably wrong.
Snell won the Cy Young last year, but has struggled this year. I don't see that.
I don't see that as a fit.
Right?
Pitching's not even – I don't – yeah, that's
weird. It was just random.
It's a weird drop.
Jameson Taillon is for sure still on the board. A couple reporters have said that tonight. I think positionally, I think you could make a case that Nico Horner move increases this week or this winter.
Yep, 100%.
And the Cubs like Matt Shaw and James Triantos, who are both plus defenders at second. So if that doesn't happen Monday or Tuesday, it could happen in December. But I think that does increase, don't you?
You made me remember my thought, but yes, I thought the big, in terms of being a future Cub, the big winner, in today's trade is Matt Shaw. Now he doesn't have to rush. He doesn't have to worry about third as much. He could do what's comfortable for him. And I thought the big loser would be Nico Horner now, just in terms of likely staying on the Cubs. I thought, maybe it doesn't happen in the next 48 hours, but I think in the offseason with Matt Shaw coming up, you have flexibility. I'm not pushing him out the door by any means.
Yeah.
But this is a move that, in my opinion, directly impacts that. And the point I wanted to make was just, a lot of people now, Cubs win a series in KC. I talked about this on the instant reaction. The Cubs are not buyers. The Cubs are also not full-on sellers. Jed is actually doing Jed is doing exactly what he said he was going to do. He's looking at deals to make sure 2025 and beyond are better because he knows that there's urgency to win. And the one point I just wanted to make about Paredes as well is don't think for 1 second there's not a little bit of marquee TV deal into this stuff. The Cubs have to put out a decent product here, with that contract expiring and them losing subscribers. That is hand-to-mouth money that they need in order to keep that budget flowing. And so this is going to excite people for a few weeks. And then, in 2025, now look at it, Matt. This isn't crazy to say. We know who's going to be in left field. We know that Suzuki's going to be part of the team as a right fielder or a DH. We know PCA is going to be there. We know Paredes is going to be at third. We know Dansby's going to be at short. We know Bush is going to be somewhere. So now, you have a pretty good idea of about 6 guys, Amaya, and then, who the other catcher will be. So that's 7. So you have a couple of open spots. Shaw's going to be involved at one point. Things are, it's not like a huge mystery. Jed knows that. So he's trying to tinker it to make sure that we go into 2025 not having a May and June like we had this year that put us behind the 8 ball.
I will be really surprised if the Cubs don't trade at least one reliever, especially after acquiring a new one on Saturday. We get to who that is, what he brings next. Today's episode is brought to you by our great partners at Stitch Fix. That instant confidence boost you get from an outfit that makes you look really good? That's what I get with Stitch Fix. Easily upgrade your wardrobe this year with a professional stylist that helps you find new on-trend favorites that will work for you. I just give my stylist my size, style, and budget preferences. I order boxes when I want and how I want, and no subscription is required. They send 5 just for me pieces back, plus outfit recommendations and pro styling advice. I keep what works. I send back the rest. Stitch Fix makes it all so easy. I don't like to shop, so they save me time and effort. Plus, I get outfits that make me look good and feel really good, too. Shipping, returns, and exchanges are always free. Style that makes you feel as good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/MLB and get $20 off your first fix. That's stitchfix.com/MLB for $20 off. Stitchfix.com/MLB. Must redeem within 5 days of sign up. Cubs play the Reds at 6:10 p.m. Central Monday, and you can hear every pitch of the Cubs hometown broadcast on SiriusXM by searching Cubs on the SXM app. Cubs traded 2 minor leaguers to the Blue Jays on Saturday for Nate Pearson. Pearson is a right-handed reliever who was once the top overall prospect in the Blue Jays system and top 25 in all of baseball. Pearson's a guy, nasty stuff, high velo, and is under team control through 2026. I'll speculate on some pitch mix stuff here, but I guess my first reaction, Sam, is there's next to no risk in acquiring as many power arms as you can and then working with them. And the minor leaguers, Yohendrick Panago and an outfielder and infielder, Josh Rivera, sent to the Blue Jays, not really on the Cubs' big picture board. So, again, this is a move for not only this year, but 25 and beyond.
Yeah, and you get the rest of 24 to see how you could work with them, see his pitch mix. This sounded like a council move to me. Listening to how positive and how much it sounded like he knew about Pearson.
Okay.
I feel like he probably had a say in this one. There's not only is there no risk, it's encouraged. This team needs to figure out how to get more consistent, high level, high velo arms. This is a deal. There's it's a no-lose situation. If it goes well the rest of this year, do you think there's some things to tinker with? Maybe he turns into a guy for you in 25. There's a certain Blue Jays pitcher that was kind of a lost cause last year that the Cubs had success with by the name of Julian Merriweather. So hopefully they could do that again. It's a really good test for the Cubs, their pitch lab. But these relievers, this happens a lot. You're stuck in an organization. It happened with Jeremiah Estrada, just the other way. You're stuck.
Jason Adam, who was traded again.
Yep, you're stuck in an organization. You're not improving. Another organization identifies something they really like about you. In this case, it's his high velo fastball, his extension, all that stuff. Maybe they increase his splitter, or they do something a little bit differently, and it's really not a lot, and it changes things, and it's lightning in a bottle. And for a year, he's a dominant reliever, and then the year after, he's not as good, and nobody knows why. It's a very complicated industry. The bullpen situation. I support the Cubs doing this. I like where the Cubs are at right now in terms of their mentality. I think that's my biggest takeaway from the weekend, is that they are not Jed Hoyer is acting with urgency. Now, maybe that's because he needs to for his job, but it is clear that there's already an eye on 2025, and they're not going to let this happen again. My big question that I would ask Jed Hoyer if we had him on would be, hey, Jed, if you guys were 56 and 51 right now, would you make the same deal? Would you give up on Morel? Because you can make the case it makes even more sense to make the deal because you have a chance to win this year, but maybe Jed Hoyer doesn't feel as much pressure and he has more patience with Christopher Morel. I'd be fascinated to hear his response to that. But I like the urgency. It feels like, without saying so, the organization is showing you and illustrating that they're very disappointed in how things went, and change is coming. And Jed Hoyer's gotten criticized a lot for his safe moves. And to me, this is him coming outside of his comfort zone.
Yeah, I think it's very well put. I don't know if this is a typo. I guess it could be, but I show here that Pearson's thrown one splitter the whole year.
That's not a typo.
You know who's good at that? The Cubs. Leiter, Neris, Imanaga, others. So do you pair that with the high heat? He's been up to 100 before. He's also has a plus slider. So we'll see. And I think this is also some elbow room when, I guess I could say if, but I really think it's when the Cubs trade a reliever this week, because clinging to relievers is not Hoyer's posture. I think he's in his right to hold out on a high price for Mark Leiter, who has literally thrown 8 perfect innings since returning from the IL earlier this month with 14 strikeouts. But there is some buffer there as well. I think a lot of teams would be in on him. I think Neris and Smiley are garnering some interest as well. Sounds like the price is really high on someone like Tyson Miller, but I do think there will be at least bullpen movement the next couple of days.
Yeah, I think so. And just real briefly, because we won't have another show unless there's a deal until after Monday night.
Right.
I'd be really surprised if Taillon pitches.
Why would he pitch?
Yeah, and let me tell you why. Is it an appropriate time for me to tell you why I think he should be traded?
Yeah, let's remind everybody.
I just don't. I've watched enough of him to know that he's not this good. And I just think that with the salary, and look, if he pitches like this, it's a bargain. But with the salary, with what we've seen, if you really have confidence in Ben Brown, you really have confidence in Wicks, you have Imanaga, you have Steele, hopefully Cade at some point, could you get a return back where you're getting 150 cents on the dollar and then worry about it in the offseason? Now, I wouldn't make the trade unless you really love the return. Like, I wouldn't force it, but I just think if the return is really good, this is a good trade. It reminds me a little bit of the Morel situation in the offseason. Like, is his value going to be any higher than it is right now? Right. If so, do you want to pounce? Now, the counterpoint's obvious. If you're serious about winning in 2025, why would you trade a controllable starting pitcher that has an ERA under 3? And my gut feeling says he's just not going to be this good next year. Yeah. And so why not pounce on that when you're not in a serious win mode. We'll see. My guess is if he doesn't get moved, it's not because Jed didn't want to. He just wasn't blown away by a return.
Absolutely. And from what we're hearing, Orioles, Red Sox, Yankees, Astros, Padres, and Mets have all checked in on Taillon. And my guess is that the Braves will call Jed too tonight or Monday. They had an injury, another pitching injury, I believe, on Sunday.
Yeah, they're really banged up.
And so we'll be monitoring that as well to see what the Cubs do. It's going to be, I think, a very active period for them Monday and Tuesday.
Be ready.
All right. Cubs win 2 out of 3 against the Royals. We're going to recap that series, then preview the next 3 in Cincy. Today's episode is brought to you by our great partners at Supply House. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades. Supply House. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? You can get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the biz and talk to a real person every time. Also, take advantage of their Trade Master program, which gets you access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks of a button. Go to SupplyHouse.com for Supply House today. Cubs win 2 out of 3 against the Royals, taking the series in KC. 6-0 loss Friday, 9-4 win Saturday, 7-3 win Sunday, and a couple of names that jumped out over the weekend that maybe you didn't expect. Patrick Wisdom, 3 for 7 with 2 home runs this series, including a go-ahead pinch hit grand slam on Saturday night. And Pete Crow Armstrong tripled Saturday and then went 3 for 4 on Sunday. Shota Imanaga and Javier Assad pitched well enough in their outings, and the bullpen continued their hot stretch Saturday and Sunday, especially as well. Cubs are now 51-56, 5.5 back of the third wild card spot. Sam, anything jump out at you at the series win?
Thought Friday night was just a synopsis of what's so frustrating about this team. Second and third, no out, don't score. Next half inning, nobody on, 2 out, give up 6 runs, led by a Suzuki misjudged fly ball. Thought Hendricks pitched much better than he did. Saturday, give Counsell credit. I thought he kind of took advantage of Quattaro. I don't know how to say the Royals manager's name. Made a mistake. He took the bat out of PCA's hands, went right to Wisdom. Yeah. Wisdom grand slam. And then Sunday was a really nice win. Assad was bumpy early, found a way to keep him in the game, and clutch hit. I thought David Bodie really deserves a shout out as well. Had a clutch hit to bust the game open Saturday. And then I thought the biggest hit of the game tying hit on Sunday. Cubs take 2 out of 3. If they played in the American League, they'd win it. They dominate American League teams, but they can't handle their own NL Central opponents. Just one stat I'd like to throw at you. We talked about last year how frustrating it was. The Cubs had such a strong run differential, but not a great record. It's starting to happen that way again. The Cubs' run differential is only -7. For context, the St. Louis Cardinals, who are 4 games ahead of them, are at -48.
What?
The Cubs just, the Cubs just don't shut the door. Hasn't shut the door enough in close games. The Cardinals have Helsley. We don't. And that's hopefully something we could get figured out for next year. I don't know why it has to take so long. And now we play a team, the Reds, that have the biggest gap. The Reds have a +35 run differential, but are actually tied with us in the standings. Wow. So that'll be an interesting series. Care to preview that really quick?
Yeah, all 3 games, 6:10 Central. Supposed to be Taillon Monday. Obviously, we'll see. Spires for the Reds. Steele Montas Tuesday. Hendricks Lodolo Wednesday. Reds did lose 2 out of 3 to the Rays over the weekend. A couple tough losses there, and are 4-6 in their last 10. Also, keep in mind, Monday night's game, Paredes is going to join the lineup, and Cody Bellinger might too.
Is Paredes coming back tomorrow? Or is he going to play tomorrow?
I don't know that for sure.
Because sometimes it takes like a full day. So
yeah, it may.
And I just like to add, if you're new to the show, I really don't like when the Cubs play in Cincinnati for one big reason, and that is rain in the forecast all week in Cincinnati.
I thought you were going to say Skyline Chili.
No, keep that in mind.
Wait,
Tomorrow,
what's the percentage rain?
oh well, tomorrow's 80%,
Ah,
and at game time it cranks up. So
could they play at noon or something?
No, they're not going to push
kidding.
that up. So just keep that in your plans for tomorrow at 6:10. Rain in Cincinnati.
So it might be a late night.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The Cubs then come home, face the Cardinals, but there's still rain Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. If you just do a quick look at the
Wow, so a lot of wet weather in the Midwest this week.
Cincinnati broadcast. Yeah, and rain overnight here in the Chicagoland area. But a wild weekend for the Cubs, and a good one. I think this, Matt, between you and I and our listeners, I think this is going to help us a little bit too. This gives a little bit of buzz, a little bit of a jolt the next couple weeks to keep interest alive. I'll be excited for Paredes' first AB in Cincy.
Of course.
And I think I'm really excited to see what happens. I'd find it hard to believe some team wouldn't go take a shot at Mark Leiter Jr. here shortly.
Oh, absolutely. I think Jed's holding out.
Yeah, get as much as possible.
Absolutely. And he should on Leiter and Taillon.
Well, and it's not like Jed has to trade these guys, so he has some leverage.
Yeah, we got the three rentals nearest Smiley, Lopez. So maybe one of them gets dealt. But
sources say the Dodgers are very interested in Cardinals utility man Tommy Edman.
That's great. Thank you so much for checking out this edition of Locked On Cubs.
So much pain.
You give us 20 to 30 minutes. We'll give you all things Cubs with a laugh or two along the way. Our plan when trades are made is to be on shortly after, just like we were for the trade on Sunday, and then full episodes in the evening for the next day. Be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube, smash the like button for the algorithm, and leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcast. All right, we'll see what Jed does the next couple of days, and if the Cubs keep winning. How about that? 2 out of 3 in KC. He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. This is Locked On Cubs.
Go Cubs.